Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so this time you sent us down a really fascinating path. We're exploring human potential, but through the ideas of Carlos Castaneda.
Right, but specifically as interpreted by Sergey Kontsevoy in one of his videos.
Exactly. And what jumped out straight away was this, well, it seems like a contradiction, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, Kontsevoy suggests that one of the best descriptions of human potential comes from a system, Castaneda's, that doesn't really have a god in the way most people think of it.
Ah, yeah, that paradox. It is interesting. Kontsevoy talks about Castaneda's eagle, right, as the source of everything.
Mm.
But it's not, a personified deity. It's more like a fundamental force,
Oh, very personal.
like in some Eastern philosophies.
Precisely. Kontsevoy draws that parallel, like to Indian philosophy.
Right.
The idea is our potential isn't some gift from a judging entity. It's just there, part of existence.
Which kind of puts the responsibility
Yeah.
back on us, yeah.
Totally. So the eagle is the big picture, and our potential, Kontsevoy says, is always trying to restore itself. Okay, and this links to Don Juan's idea of luminosity, the energetic cocoon.
That's it, the energetic cocoon.
How would you explain that simply for someone new to this?
Okay, imagine like an energy field around us, a bubble of light, sort of. Kontsevoy thinks this is what really makes us different from, other animals.
Well, an energy bubble.
Yeah. And he even says some people can actually see these things
See them? How?
by getting really quiet inside, stopping that constant mental chatter, the internal dialogue.
Huh.
Apparently, if you can manage it for, say, 3 to 11 minutes, boom, you might perceive it.
Wow. Just quieting your mind for a few minutes. That's kind of mind-blowing. I haven't seen it myself, obviously, but you sort of intuitively trust there's something there.
It makes you wonder, right, what we miss, because we're always thinking.
Definitely. And Kontsevoy connects this luminosity to babies, newborns.
Yeah, think about how people react to them. That, universal good feeling. The idea is that their inherent divinity, or their luminosity, it's still really bright and strong in their cocoon.
So they still have that pure potential shining through.
Exactly. And in this framework, our physical body,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a piece of that. Maybe not even the biggest piece.
So these bigger energetic structures are the real deal.
Kind of. And how we perceive everything, through socialization, upbringing,
Yeah?
that shapes how we experience this energy.
Right.
Kontsevoy mentions seeing with a capital S, like a deeper perception. But he says, let's put that aside for now. It's a whole other topic.
Okay, got it. So this paints a really amazing picture of what we could be, our potential, but then why don't we feel like luminous beings all the time?
Ah, the big question.
Yeah, if it's our natural state, why does it feel so diminished or lost even?
Well, that's where it gets a bit unusual. Kontsevoy brings in his own term.
Which is
He calls them Castaneda's dementors.
like from Harry Potter.
Sort of an analogy, yeah. It's his personal label for what Castaneda called flyers.
Yeah.
Sometimes also predators or tunari, apparently, though flyers is the main one.
Okay, so flyers, what are they supposed to be?
Not literal monsters, but influences, forces that sort of periodically envelop us, press down on our energy field.
Press down.
Yeah. And this apparently happens naturally. It hinders the growth of our luminosity, which, interestingly, they say, starts growing from our ankles, energetically speaking.
Pumping the ankles up. Huh. So our natural state is expansion, light, but there's this external pressure keeping it down. That sounds kind of bleak. A bit oppressive.
It can sound that way at first, yeah. But there's a twist, a really empowering one, actually.
Okay.
The teaching suggests that if we stop reacting aggressively to the world,
Aggressively, like anger, frustration.
exactly, all those strong negative reactions, if we achieve that inner silence Don Juan talks about, stopping the internal dialogue,
Yeah.
we basically become inedible to these flyers.
Inedible. Wow, that's a strong word. Like they feed on the negativity.
That's the idea.
I can imagine people hearing, we're being energetically eaten and
Yeah.
feeling, well, pretty freaked out.
For sure. It's definitely not your standard self-help fare.
No kidding.
But Kontsevoy tries to reframe it. He brings up that quote from Kung Fu Panda, Master Oogway.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
There is no such thing as accident.
So implying there's a reason for this. A deeper order, even in something that sounds predatory.
That seems to be the implication, that it's part of a larger system, not just random awfulness.
Okay. So if we manage to become inedible by, mastering our reactions, what happens then? What's the benefit?
Well, Kontsevoy links restoring the energetic cocoon directly to developing Well, what most people would call extrasensory abilities. Psychic stuff, maybe.
Mm.
Other hidden human potentials.
Ah, so unlocking abilities we don't normally have access to.
Exactly. Which is the opposite of what happens when our reactions are just running wild.
Right.
He uses an analogy from Hindu mythology, the idea of curses. How uncontrolled anger or negativity can actually manifest real negative consequences.
Yeah. So our inner state literally shapes our reality energetically.
In this view, yes.
Yeah.
And he even suggests something pretty radical, that maybe the world, as messed up as it seems sometimes,
Yeah.
might actually be less chaotic than it could be, precisely because these flyers or whatever are acting as a kind of natural restraint.
Whoa. So things could be worse without this dynamic. That's a thought.
It's a very different perspective, isn't it? But the hopeful part is the agency we have.
How so?
Kontsevoy really emphasizes that changing our worldview, and critically, changing how we react to things, that's the key. That's how we can potentially restore our luminosity.
It comes back to managing our internal state.
Absolutely. He connects it to Sergey Lazarev's work, too, especially the idea of avoiding things like contempt, hatred, those really corrosive emotions.
Because they drain our energy, presumably?
That seems to be the core principle. Our inner world directly shapes our energetic state.
And he gives a practical starting point, right? Something about one day.
Yeah, he says even just spending one day without giving in to negative emotions, that's a huge step.
Just one day. Sounds simple, but probably incredibly hard in practice.
Oh, definitely. But he links that single day to, like, the first step towards what Eastern traditions call enlightenment, or, in Don Juan's terms, restoring the energetic cocoon.
So it's achievable, step by step.
That's the message. And even though introducing these flyers or dementors sounds dark, Kontsevoy actually frames it as optimistic.
How optimistic.
Because the focus isn't on being victims, it's on the potential we have to reach our full capabilities by learning to consciously let go of the negative reactions.
Which leads nicely into thinking about things like indifference or detachment, which you mentioned might come up later.
Exactly. That seems like the next logical step in this line of thought. But before that, Kontsevoy introduces another really interesting concept.
Oh, what's that?
The human matrix.
The human matrix. Okay.
Yeah, and Kontsevoy really expresses admiration here for Don Juan's questions, maybe even more than the answers he gave.
Asking the right questions is key.
Totally. And he points out something curious. The new seers in Castaneda's books, they apparently identified this human matrix, but they were kind of disappointed because it wasn't like the ultimate source of reality. But the weird thing is, they never asked who put it there.
Huh. That is a strange oversight. They find this fundamental template inside us, but don't ask about its origin.
Right. And from Castaneda's viewpoint, as Kontsevoy interprets it, this matrix, it resembles the common image of Jesus Christ.
Wait, really? Jesus.
Not necessarily the historical person, but the image, the template, embedded in our being.
A kind of archetypal pattern within us?
Something like that. The idea, Kontsevoy suggests, is that its function is maybe to guide us, to help us become more than just animals reacting to instinct.
Which does sort of echo the Christian idea of a savior figure guiding humanity.
It has that resonance, yeah. And Kontsevoy hints there's more to it, mentioning the rose of the world and another function to discuss later.
Okay, so there's layers to this. Even with the unsettling flyer stuff, there's also this internal, potentially guiding structure.
Exactly. And Kontsevoy loops back to that practical point. Even one day without negative reactions is a significant move towards engaging with that potential.
It grounds it a bit, makes it feel less overwhelming.
And Kontsevoy's own philosophy, this perfection of the world idea he has, it suggests that even the scary parts, like the energetic predators, might actually have a purpose, a protective one even, preventing worse problems in the grand scheme of things.
Seeing the perfection even in the difficult stuff, that's a challenging viewpoint.
It is. It encourages looking for the function, the reason behind even things that seem negative.
And he wraps up this part by saying modern people are essentially, what was the word?
Energetically disabled.
Yeah.
That we're missing out on our full range of ability.
Disabled, strong term. But he doesn't think it's because of some evil plot.
No. He clarifies it's not necessarily malicious intent from outside. It's more about us adopting what he calls a vulgar Satanism.
Vulgar Satanism? What does he mean by that?
Based on the context, it seems to mean a focus purely on the material, on ego, on external validation, a way of life that just drains our deeper energy. It's not about devil worship, more about a spiritually empty materialism.
Gotcha. A self-inflicted energy drain in a way.
That seems to be the idea. And then he just quickly mentions he'll add something about ruthlessness or indifference in his next video. So it's an ongoing exploration for him.
Okay, wow. That was a lot to unpack. So if we try and summarize this deep dive,
Let's try.
we started with this idea of inherent human potential, this luminosity or energetic cocoon, our natural state.
Right. But then there are these forces, Castaneda's flyers, Kontsevoy's dementors, that naturally suppress it. They feed on negativity.
But crucially, we have the power to become inedible.
Yeah. By managing our reactions, cultivating inner silence, stopping the internal dialogue.
And doing that doesn't just make us immune, it actually helps restore that cocoon, potentially unlocking abilities.
Extrasensory perception, other capacities, the full human potential. And there's even this human matrix inside us, maybe guiding us towards that.
So the ultimate takeaway seems to be, our internal landscape is key. Changing how we react, how we feel, fundamentally changes our energetic reality and potential.
That's the core message, I think. Transforming the inner world transforms our energy, our capabilities, everything. At least according to this perspective.
It really makes you think. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Go for it.
Just consider your own reactions today, how you responded to things, big or small. And just imagine, what if shifting those responses, even slightly, could actually change your energetic state, could make you, inedible to negativity, as Kontsevoy puts it? Could it unlock something dormant inside you?
It's a powerful question to sit with.
Definitely. This whole exploration, Castaneda through Kontsevoy's eyes, it's a really unique way to look at personal growth, reality itself, lots to potentially explore further.